All right, the NBA predictions are here. The NBA season will be tipping off, right? It's not kickoff, and it's not opening day. That's MLB. So I guess the NBA tip-off will start next week. I think, to be exact, if you want to know the exact NBA tip-off for the 2025 season. Yeah, 2025, that's kind of crazy. Yeah, but the NBA opening night tip-off is Tuesday, October 22nd. So that's just in a few days. And so I got my yearly NBA predictions. Last year, I took the finals to be the Nuggets over the Bucks. This year, I did not take the Nuggets over the Bucks. So I don't remember what I did 2 years ago. I guess for funsies, we can look back. Let me scroll back in my notes. Back to fall 2022. Where are they at? What? Probably this episode, I'd say. Oh, that was an MLB predictions pod. Oh, yeah, that was the year I took the Mets to win the World Series over the Guardians. Huh. Wild times. So 2 years ago, I took the NBA champions to be the Bucks over the Warriors. Oh, I knew that. I remember doing that. That was the year I picked Jaden Ivey to be Rookie of the Year. Yeah, that was the year I did my NBA Top 50. I had Giannis 1, Steph Curry 3, Steph Curry 2, Jokic 3. Yeah. This is such a sign of the times when Ja Morant was ranked 8th above Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum, Trae Young, Anthony Davis, Damian Lillard, Karl-Anthony Towns, Jimmy Butler, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, Anthony Edwards. Man, I was high on Edwards, though. Goodness. Edwards at 18. I had him above Jaylen Brown, Paul George. Man, I was high on him a while back. All right. So let's get into this episode. We're going to start with the Eastern Conference, and I'm going to run down 15-1 where I think every team will place, and I'll give a little bit why. Then we'll do the awards predictions, and we'll move into the playoffs and my finals pick. Really, the big thing with the NBA at the moment is I really hope that the rumors that they're going to call things, they're just going to call less, they're going to move more towards the way FIBA is true. I really hope that's not just press talk. I legitimately think the product would be significantly better if the refs let more go and the game was more physical. I think more people would tune in. I don't just think it would benefit my guy Victor Wembanyama, but it would benefit my guy Victor Wembanyama. But I just think everyone wants to see that. I don't think anyone enjoys the last couple years of we're just going to put up insane numbers because they're calling fouls and everything. So it's like we're just getting insane scores, insane point totals. And I don't really think that's what the public wants to see. I don't think it's going in a good direction. I think baseball is kind of figuring out, how to navigate. They've done some dumb stuff, but the pitch clock overall has been a success for them. And I think the NBA needs to kind of pivot because while I think the results have been really good, I've been saying we're getting Hood Classic seasons because we're getting really fun results. There's a lot of parity. Well, that's true. I don't really think the product itself is – I think the product itself is probably in some of the weakest state it's ever been. So we've got really fun storylines and fun results, but actually watching games is some of the poorest it's ever been. And so I think a movement towards the more FIBA style, more physical, would be elite for the NBA, and I'm hoping that the rumors that it is going to be that way this year and that the refs were told, let's, make it more physical. Let's hope that's true. And if so, don't play any James Harden overs. Okay, let's start off the Eastern Conference. We'll count down 15-1. So last place in the Eastern Conference is going to be the Wizards. The Wizards were awful last year, and I don't expect them to be any better. They got Alex Sarr with the 2 pick. I don't really think he's going to be that good. So as we go on with these predictions, you'll figure out I'm not very high on any of these rookies. I didn't even do a NBA draft pod this year. It's the first time in forever. I haven't done that. First time since I started the podcast that I didn't do that. because I had no interest. I didn't even really pay that much. I mean, I think I watched some of the draft, but I was not as into it as I usually am. I'm usually a big fan, but no, I just could not care. And really, to me in the draft, it was Reed Shepherd is easily the best prospect because it's at worst, he's just a solid shooter for you. You can just put him in the corner, be a solid shooter. And at best, he's maybe a Josh Hart level player. Maybe a Dante DiVincenzo style guy, where he can put up some decent points for you, maybe start on a good team. But there's nobody in this draft that's going to change a franchise. Now, granted, maybe this will be the 2013 draft where we all said that about that draft, and then Giannis came out of it. Maybe there's some surprise guy. But here's the thing. I don't see that surprise guy. I'll talk more about Zach Edey in a bit. I have been interested by what he's been doing. But Rasashir, or however you say it, and Alex Sarr, not high on either of them. So that's why I have the Wizards coming in last. 14, I have the Nets. I think the Nets really want Cooper Flagg, and I think they're going to tank pretty heavily. So that's the Nets. There's not much on this team. I think their best players Nicholas Claxton or Cam Thomas. But Cam Thomas will probably be traded by the deadline. So 13's the Bulls. I think the Bulls are going to blow it up this year around the trade deadline, if not before. Kobe White might still be in the roster. I think they would love to get Cooper Flagg and have a new guy for Chicago. I think Adam Silver would love that, so he can market the Bulls again. But Chicago sports maybe potentially making a big comeback in a major way. Other than the White Sox and Cubs. Yeah, definitely other than the White Sox. Oh, my. But maybe they're going to try to get Cooper or something like that. I don't think the Bulls are interested. Because that's the thing with the NBA right now is if you're bad, you're kind of just maybe we should just be bad and get Cooper Flagg. Because, everybody's high on him. So. And there's other guys in this draft that are also really good. It's just Cooper's the main dog. So he's the Caleb Williams of this draft. 12, we got the Raptors. My buddy RJ really likes the Raptors coach. I don't really know that much about him. I just don't see much on this roster. Don't think they'll be very good. 11's the Hawks. I would be shocked if Trae Young's still on this team by the end of the season. Probably next offseason he's going to get moved, if not before. I guess I'd be shocked if he's on this team going into 2026 season. That's what I should say. So this is probably his last year in the Hawks. I don't know why they didn't take Reed Shepherd number 1. I just don't like this team at all. They have great jerseys though, but this team's not good. It's really really depressing when I start with the bottom teams because it's just me kind of being whatever. Let's start getting excited because number 10 I got my Pistons. You guys know I'm a Pistons fan. I think the Pistons actually have something this year. I think Bickerstaff was a good hire for them. They have a coach that I think can, while he did have a bit of a stagnant offense in Cleveland, I do think Bickerstaff clearly is a good, let's rebuild and with these young guys coach. That's what he did in Cleveland. He did a very good job. And I'm very excited to see what he can do with this Pistons roster. I think this is the make or break year for Jaden Ivey. This is the year if we find out if he's going to be good. Cade Cunningham, I expect to have a huge year. Legit, probably a most improved candidate, which, sidebar, I hate how they vote on most improved now. It shouldn't be Cade Cunningham winning it. It shouldn't be guys like that. John Morant should have never won most improved. It should not be, you're really good, and we knew you'd be good, and you popped off, and now you're really good. That's stupid. That's not how most improved should work. Most improved should be I think it would, I don't even know how to describe, Goran Dragic won. That to me is the last time it made sense. I'm just going to pull up the most improved award winners. So last couple winners, Tyrese Maxey last year. Year before that, Lauri Markkanen. Year before that, Ja Morant. And I remember that Ja year. It was Ja, Darius Garland, and Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, number 1 pick. Ja Morant, 2nd pick, rookie of the year. And Darius Garland, 5th pick. It's no. Shouldn't be for guys like that. Last time a guy won it that it made sense to me was Julius Randle. That made sense. It was okay. Randle, yes, granted, you're going to be well, Ryan, Randle was a 7th pick in his draft. You're right, he was. But he had been in the NBA for 7 years at that point and just been fine. And that year he popped off and was what was he, 2nd team All-NBA that year? Yeah, All-NBA 2nd team. He deserved that. Then before that, it was Brandon Ingram. Okay, yeah, Ingram was the second pick in his draft, but he had been in the league for 4 years, hadn't really done anything, and that year he just popped off for the Pelicans. Year before that was Pascal, second-round pick, who just became an all-star level player. 100% deserved it. Year before that, Victor Oladipo. Yeah, he was the second pick, but he'd been in the league for 4 years, hadn't really done anything that impressive, and then he popped off for the Pacers and led them to the playoffs. Deserved it. Giannis obviously made sense. He had gotten better every year and was on his way to becoming, eventually for a period there, the best player in the NBA before Jokic took that from him. That's how the most improved player award should be voted on. I don't understand why it's now. Lauri Markkanen made sense, actually, too. I want to say Lowry was a good choice. Lowry made sense. Lowry's made sense because he was, seventh pick in his draft, and he'd been around for 6 years at that point. And we'd never seen him play at the level he played that year for the Jazz, and he 100% deserved it. So, yeah, very, very much deserved for Lowry. So this year, Cade Cunningham probably is going to be a candidate, even though it's not really how that should work. But whatever. It should be like Jaden Ivey, if Jaden Ivey massively improves. Because okay, this is his breakout. I don't know, whatever. But I honestly think the Pistons are going in a good direction. I think they made some decent offseason moves. I really like bringing in Tobias Harris. I know people have been making jokes, but I actually think it's a really smart move for them. I think it's a good vet on the roster. If your starting lineup is going to be Cade, Jaden, Tobias, Bagley, and Duren, I think that's an interesting lineup. Or maybe Asar instead of Jaden at the 2. You bring Jaden off bench. Not sure, but I think Asar is going to look good this year. Very excited for what the Pistons are doing, and I really like the pick in Ron Holland. I actually think he's one of the guys in this draft that I actually kind of like. I do think he's a super low floor, pretty high ceiling guy. There's a world in which he's Josh Jackson, and he's not good. But there's also a world where he's pretty good. So he's a very odd choice. But we brought in that shooting coach from the Pelicans who worked with Herb Jones, and that makes me excited. So hopefully it's going to work out for my Pistons. That's why I have them at the 10 seed. I'm actually pretty high on them, which doesn't surprise you because I had them at the 10 seed last year. So, 9, I have the Hornets. At some point in the East, somebody's got to be the 9 seed, and I wanted to make the Pistons, but I couldn't lie to myself. So I put the Hornets. They could win some games. Their roster's not terrible. It's just not very good either. If LaMelo could have a good year for them, maybe. I don't know. The Eastern Conference standings are very similar to last year for me. We'll get... This will be the theme of this episode, is the NBA predictions are kind of frustrating for me this year because I don't really think a lot has changed in my mind. I feel very similar about all these teams that I did last year. It's not a lot of them I have, there's only a couple teams here as we continue. You're going to be like, oh, okay, Ryan. And I don't just want to do chalk and be like, okay, my finals is, Celtics over the Thunder, and my MVP's Luka. Because, that's what everybody on every show is going to say, because that's what makes sense, right? I just don't want to do that. So I'm not going to do that. That's not what I have. But I do think that's kind of been a little frustrating about this, doing my predictions this year, is I was like, I don't just want to do what everybody else is saying, but I'm also don't want to do something just to do it, where it's I'm going to lie to you all and be like, oh, I think, Shai Gilgeous is going to win MVP. I don't think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to win MVP. I don't. So I'm not going to put that. But it's realistically, I should put Luka because all the stars are aligning for him to win it. It's just what makes sense. So that's kind of, it's been a little frustrating about these NBA predictions this year, is that I just feel like I don't feel that different than I did about halfway last year. These predictions are a lot different than my predictions from last year. But as far as if you would have said last April, predict next season from right now, it probably would be this. I don't really feel that differently. The Karl-Anthony Towns trade did make a decent difference. It did have some finals implications for me. We'll get to that later. But for the most part, it's not that different. So, all right, let's go to the Heat. That's what I have as the 8th seed in the East is the Heat. My thing with the Heat is I understand this is the year Jimmy's got to take it serious. This might be his last year with the Heat. We'll have to see what turns out. They're taking it seriously this year. I just don't think they're one of the I don't think they're better than these other teams in the East. I don't. Like, maybe they can be better than the Pacers and Sixers, who I have above them. But for the most part, I don't think they're better than the other 6 teams I have above. Other 5 teams I have above them. So, while I understand they're going to have a different mindset this year, they're taking the regular season more seriously. That's all great. That's all fine. But I just don't really think on paper they're that much. Like, it's the same team as last year. And it's like, okay, really, how does them saying, like, oh, we're going to lock in, does that really change things that much? I don't know. I guess we'll see. But, like, to me, I'm just like, okay, whatever. It's just all talk until I see it. And right now it's all talk, and so I'm not really that intrigued by it. So that's why I have the Heat at 8. Because even if they do take it more seriously, who's to say they win, like... let's pull up their record from last year. Let's just do that, right? Heat won 46 games last year, and they weren't taking it seriously, apparently. Okay, let's say they take it seriously, right? What did they win, like 50 games, maybe? All right, well, here's the thing. The difference between last year, the Knicks were the 2nd seed in the East with 50 wins. The Heat were the 8th seed in the East with 46 wins. So it's like, it's not like, they could win 50 games and hop up to the 2 seed, right? But let's say everybody else gets a little better too, right? Like now, you get what I'm saying here. I'm just saying, it's not like they were that bad last year. They were 4 games away from being the 2 seed. Like, the East was very close. The only team that, like, blasted everybody was the Celtics. They went 64-18. It was just, like, an absurd record. But, yeah. That's kind of my thought, is I'm just like, good for you guys. You're saying you take regular season more seriously, but it's not like you were that, like, it's not like you did bad last year. You won 46 games, please. You almost won 50. Like, I don't know. I'm just like, I don't think the Knicks got worse. I don't think the Bucks Bucks might have gotten worse. But I think the Cavs, Magic, Pacers, Sixers, I think they all got better. So it's like, I don't think you got better. Now you're just going to take things seriously. I just don't see it. I don't. They got to prove it to me. So I have them 8. 7's the Sixers. But Ryan, they got Paul George. I don't really care. I don't really care. I think Paul George is going to have injury problems. He's already had problems. Embiid will probably have injury problems. It'll be Maxey most of the year. We'll get to the end of the year. Here's the thing. At best, they're like the 3rd seed. Okay? And then I have them losing probably in the 2nd round. There you go. Like, I don't buy it. I'm an Embiid hater. I don't think they're any good. Once again, it's like the Heat. It's like it's all talk. I think Paul George, pretty soon, it's going to be like, oh, wait, Paul George is old. That day is coming. It's going to arrive. Everybody my age, we've seen of all these young guys getting drafted, they're my age, and they all love Paul George. I'm the same way. I love Paul George, too. I don't think he's the GOAT or anything, but I love Paul George. He is one of the best human highlight reels of all time. But he's going to get old soon. And it might be this year, might be next year, might be in a couple years. Who knows? But we're not getting 2019 Oklahoma City Thunder Paul George. We're not getting 2021 Clippers Paul George. We're probably not even at 2024 Clippers Paul George. It's going to be a diminished role on a team that's going to have injury problems. And he'll probably have injury problems too. Because that's just how it goes. That's just how it goes for the Sixers. So that's why I have them 7. 6th spot, I got the Pacers. It was a fun run last year, the Eastern Conference Finals. It was an interesting team. I think Halliburton's really good. I think they need a better guy to pair with him. Maybe Pascal can continue to play that high level he was playing in the playoffs. But I'm just not the highest on the Pacers. I also think if the Knicks don't have the injury issues they do, the Pacers lose to them. So it's not like their Eastern Conference Finals appearance is that big of a deal to me. So it's a good team, not a great team. 5, I have the Cavs. I legitimately do think Kenny Atkinson is going to be a really strong coach for them. I actually think he's going to do a lot of good things for them. My thing with the Cavs is, in order for them to be a championship contender, Evan Mobley has to be really good. And not just like ever since his rookie year, he really hasn't improved. And I had a lot of Evan Mobley stock, and a lot of people did. And he's entering now his 4th season. Okay? We need to see that next level, and we haven't. And if he doesn't ever go up a level, they are never going to be a championship contender. They're not. They'll be a really fun team that peaks at an Eastern Conference Finals berth, like the Pacers. If we can see Mobley take that next step this year, they're a finals contender. If not, they're not. There you go. 4 is the Bucks. The Bucks concern me because I think Giannis is still the second best player in the NBA. I think Luka's 3. I think Giannis is incredible. But I don't really like where this roster's going. Last year I was very high on them. Thought they'd be the 1 seed. Thought they'd be in the finals. Him and Damian Lillard pair together. But it's like Middleton's going to be hurt all year. Brook Lopez is getting older. They don't really have a lot of depth. They don't. Like, start naming me Bucks guys. Very quickly, we're getting down to, like, Pat Connaughton. And it's getting rough real quick. And Pat Connaughton ain't what he used to be. And you're like, oh, Bobby Portis is pretty good. Okay, it's Bobby Portis. That's like, what, your 4th best player? Like 3rd sometimes because of injuries. So, I mean, Dame and Giannis on paper should be amazing, but I don't know. I'm just very concerned. I think there's a world where Dame isn't Dame anymore, and it's just Giannis carrying them to this record or a potentially worse record than what I have them at, and then they go out in the 1st or 2nd round. I think that's very likely. And then they start trying to take my guy out of Milwaukee. And pretty soon Giannis is a Dallas Maverick or something stupid. So I don't want that. I don't. I really don't want that. But I think it's a likely scenario. So I have them 4th in belief that Dame will at least be something for them and that they can be a good team. But I am not thinking that they're a finals contender unless we see Dame and Giannis the way we all thought it was going to play out. So, that's kind of it. At 3, we got the Orlando Magic. I know you've been waiting for it. You were like, whoa, when is Ryan going to mention the Magic? He's put them really high. Yeah, I am really high in the Magic. I kind of think if the Cavs aren't careful, the Magic are going to leapfrog them, and this might be the year. I really like what the Magic have been doing. If there's any team that's going to take the next step this year, it's them. I'm currently pulling up their roster so I can read it to you because I think it's a talented team. So, Cole Anthony running at the 1, but Paolo Banchero is obviously the main guy. Paolo's a number 1 pick. We're now going into his 3rd year. Just his numbers from last year, 27 points per game. 27 points per game. That's pretty good, I would say. Is that postseason, though? Yeah, I was about to say, that's postseason, not regular season. I was like, there's no way it was that high. I was just like, wait a minute, Ryan. Yeah, it's going to be his postseason stats. 27 points a game in the playoffs in a 7-game series? Oh, my gosh. Damn, dude. He played 7 playoff games, put up 27. That's impressive. All right, let's go to his regular season numbers. So 22 points per game on 45.5% from the field. With 7 rebounds? Damn. 72 free throw. 5 assists. Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's really good. Yeah, I think Paolo is really good, and I'm really high on him. And I think this year, last year they were in their first ever playoff series with him, and I liked what I saw from them. As far as other guys on this roster, you're like, okay, well, who else is on this team? Wendell Carter Jr. starting center. Really quality starting center. Wendell Carter Jr. is still only 25. That's pretty good. So Anthony Black is now going into his 2nd year. I think he could be interesting for them. He's only 20. They got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Always steps up in the playoffs, right? The depth isn't exactly what I love, but they do have, talking about the rest of the team, Franz Wagner, obviously, struggled last year. all of a sudden forgot how to shoot, but a very good player if he can get back to where he was. He's 6'10". Oh, my gosh. I didn't realize Franz was huge. He's good. And then Jalen Suggs has become a really strong defensive player. It's like very different the way he played in college, but he's like kind of had to remake himself, and he's done it in a really strong way. I mean, so yeah, Jalen Suggs has been really good for them. And I just kind of like what this team has. If we pull up their starters, they run Suggs, KCP, Franz, Paulo, Wendell Carter Jr., and then behind that, they're running Cole Anthony, Gary Harris, Anthony Black, Jonathan Isaac, and Mo Wagner. That's a really quality team in my mind. I actually think this is a fun team. I think they could be interesting this year. If there's any pick of mine that's going to, blow up in my face, it's this one. They might just be a 6 seed. Right. But I actually think the Magic got something going on. I think they're brewing something in Orlando. And I think it's going to be a really fun team that's gonna win a decent amount of games. And I have them as the 3 seed. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of. I think there's really something to them. I really do. I don't know. They took the Cavs to 7 games. I just want to point that out. I think they could definitely leapfrog the Cavs this year. So, I also think Mosley has a chance for Coach of the Year, especially if they get a top 3 seed like I'm talking about. All right, number 2, I got the Knicks. I'm very high on the Knicks this year. When the trade originally occurred for Karl Anthony Towns, I was like, oh, I don't know if I like that. And then the more and more I sat on it, the more and more I was like, this actually works for both teams. I actually like this for both. I think it has a higher chance of blowing up in the face of the Timberwolves. I think there's a higher chance that it's like, oh, my goodness, Gobert is not playing well enough offensively. This is bad. And, while Dante's good for us and Randall's pretty good, we really miss Karl Anthony Towns offensively. But I honestly like it for both. I think Randall makes a lot of sense over there. With the Timberwolves, I know all the memes about him like calling an ISO and Anthony Edwards being like, what are you doing? They're funny, but I honestly think that's going to work out really well for them. And I really like it for the Knicks. When you talk about the starting lineup being Brunson, Bridges, Hart, OG, and Karl Anthony Towns, or if you want to go big, Brunson, Bridges, Hart, Robinson, Karl Anthony Towns, it's a really good team. It's a really good 5. And so if OG's your 6th man or if Mitchell's your 6th man, that's interesting. Then you got Campaign, Miles McBride, and Precious Achiuwa as your other guys. Landry Shamet might get some minutes. But you know how Tom Thibodeau plays. I mean, he's probably going to run like a 6 to 7 man rotation, and you're barely going to see anybody but those main 6 guys. You might see some Precious. You might see a little bit on Miles McBride, but mostly it's going to be those main guys. And I actually think this Knicks team is going to be really good. I think they're going to win more games than they did last year. And last year they won 50 games. I think this year they're going to be even better. And I really like what they got going on. And Karl Anthony Towns, to me, is like the most important player in the NBA this year. Because if he clicks with this Knicks team, they can win the finals. And I think it'll be such a fun team. I think Brunson is a top 10 player. I think Bridges is like a top 25. Josh Hart and OG are both probably top 75. And then Karl Anthony Towns is also probably top 25. Mitchell, I don't know if he's top 75. Maybe he is, right? And that's kind of the way you got to build teams now. We went through the super team era, and then we went through the like duos where it's like I have a top 5 player, and then I pair him with like a top 25 guy, and then we get like some decent depth. And that was your Lakers with LeBron and AD. That was your Bucks with Giannis and Chris Middleton. I don't laugh, like Chris Middleton was like really good then. He was like legitimately like a top 20 player. 2022, that was Curry and that Warriors team because Andrew Wiggins was like insanely good for them in that run, like really good. And so was Jordan Poole. Like that team was really good. Like Jordan Poole, people were writing articles saying he was the next Steph Curry. Like, you can look that up. I wonder if the Ringer still has that up. There's no way they deleted that. The Ringer, Poole, next Curry. They legitimately. Oh no, Jordan Poole is making a splash. Is this it? It's from 2022. Yes, he is. He is perhaps the successor to Steph Curry. It's from May 2022. This is where we were. In 2022. That's how good that Warriors team was rolling. That's how good that Warriors team was. Like, everybody was just like, wow. Then we saw that again with Jokic and Murray and the Nuggets when they won in 23. Last year, the Celtics have now shifted the way you build teams. It's the first time I've ever seen, like, the Celtics built themselves. I don't know. To me, Tatum is not a top 5 player. He's not. He's not. And the argument I would put is that he didn't win Finals MVP or Conference Finals MVP. That was Jaylen Brown. It used to be, for the longest time, I don't always say this when it comes to winning the finals, if you don't have a top 5 player, most of the time, honestly, top 3, you're not winning the finals. You look back through NBA history, that is always true. There's a couple exceptions. If you want to argue that the 2011 Mavericks didn't, that Dirk wasn't top 3, well, you have him top 5 at least, right? Then you'd be like, oh, some of the Spurs team, you're not putting Tim Duncan top 3 or top 5. Maybe not in 2014, you're not, right? That would be the argument. The Pistons in 04 are one where it's like, okay, nobody on that team is probably top 3 or top 5. The way you build teams now is like you need a top 10 guy and then a guy who's like top 20. And then, like, it's more, you want your top 5 guys to all be, like, really good. And, like, the top guy's really good. The guy behind him isn't that much worse. The guy behind him is also really good, and the guy behind him isn't much worse. That's the way the Celtics are built, and that's the way the Thunder are built, where there are nights where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander isn't the best player. It's Chet. Whereas on those Bucks team, like the Bucks team that won the finals, on the Nuggets team that won the finals, and the Warriors team that won the finals, you knew who the best player was going to be every night. It was going to be Giannis. It was going to be Curry. It was going to be Jokic. Well, now it's like, okay, well, Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum can be the best player for us on any given night. And then behind them, it's like, who's going to be the 3rd or 4th best player? It might be Derek White. Might be Drew Holiday. Hell, there might be some nights it's Chris Stapps or Al Horford. And that's the way you build teams now. That is like the new standard, I think, in my mind. Now, I was telling Ian this, and Ian's like, no, there's no, he's like, teams don't really think like this. I think they're just trying to get best players available. And I understand that, but you look at the Knicks, it's exactly the way they're built right now. Where I don't think anybody thinks Brunson's a top 5 player. He's definitely top 10. So it's like you got Brunson. Well, I wouldn't say Karl Anthony Towns or Mikal Bridges are too, like, I don't think they're too far away from each other in talent. Brunson's clearly the best, but there's going to be some nights where Karl Anthony Towns or Mikal Bridges are the best player. And then Josh Hart and OG, they're also really good. And there's going to be some nights where they're, 2nd or 3rd best player, and it'll trade around. To me, they're the most similarly built to the Celtics in the East. In the West, it's the Thunder. But in the East, the most similarly, oh my gosh. Guys, I can't say similarly. Similarly. Thank you. Goodness, that was awful. They're the most similarly built team to the Celtics in the East. The most similarly built team in the East to the Celtics. And I think they're going to be really good. This obviously means I have the Celtics number 1. I have the Celtics being the best team in the East. If you put a gun to my head and said pick a team to win the finals, I would just take them because they're really good. And they haven't really gotten worse. So, yeah, I mean, that's it's kind of how that goes. So, yeah, are they going to win 60 games again? Maybe. Probably. Maybe. Who knows? We'll have to see. Let's kick it over to the West. 15, I got the Blazers. Do you remember when we all put all this insane pressure on Scoot Henderson? And we all thought he was going to be amazing. And then he wasn't. And I don't know if he's bad, but we'll have to see what happens with him. I hope he's good. I really do. But he did struggle last year. I would really like for him to be good. It would be really fun if he's good. I don't want everybody to be like, oh, boo, he's a bust. But also, like, there's a reason the Hornets took Brandon Miller. It's also part of the reason I have the Hornets as the 9 seed. Like, Brandon Miller's really good. He is. So, like, there's a world where he's the best player in the Hornets, and, like, LaMelo is, like, his duo partner, but, like, Brandon Miller's the leader of that team. And that's how they go, like, they get a good record. Because Brandon Miller's really good for them. Like, he's really good for them. So, 14, second to last place in the West, I have the Clippers. I don't think Kawhi's going to be very healthy for them. I think they're going to have a lot of issues. I know they made the playoffs last year. I know they won, like, 50-plus games last year. I think it's going to fall apart for the Clippers. I really do. I really think it's going to get rough this year for the Clips. And so the new jerseys are really nice. The new stadium looks awesome. But I think it's going to be a really bad team. And I think Harden's going to not do very well with the new reffing style. So 13, I have the Jazz. I actually really like this Jazz team. And I think it's really funny how they've already announced that they're changing their uniforms next year because they know how bad their current set is. It's probably the worst set in NBA history. I just think they have a lot of good talent. I just can't really justify putting them any higher. I would love to see it happen. I just don't think I can do it realistically. I just can't. So above them, 12, I have the Rockets. There is a world where this Rockets team's a play-in team. It's very likely that could happen. But I'm not going to bet on that. I honestly think at some point they're going to move off somebody. They just have so many young guys. And I think a lot of teams would be interested in at least one of them. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at in the Rockets. I just think they're in a weird spot. Maybe they break through this year, but it's like, who's the best player in that team? I don't know. Do you? I don't. So 11, I have the Warriors. This is one of those where I just can't put them too much lower because they do still have Stephen Curry. And he's like a top 10 player. So it's like, we know Steph Curry is still incredible. So it's like he's still one of the best in the world. So I'm not going to put him any lower than this. That's why at 10 I have the Lakers. It's like LeBron's still really good. This team isn't going to be much better, but they'll find a way to get to 10th place. Like they will. So they found a way to get to 7th place last year. So I had them at 10 for the Lakers. 9, I have the Spurs. I think there's a world where Wemby just explodes this year, and they have a way better record than they have any right to. And I think 9 seed is a way better record than they have any right to. Prime League Pass team. Genuinely might have to get League Pass just to watch the Spurs every week. It's going to be an incredibly fun team. And you guys know I love Wemby. I'm riding the Wemby train, and I genuinely think there's a chance by the end of this year or by the start of next year, he's the best player in the league. And he's just going to have that for, like, the next, 15 years. I think it's coming. He improved significantly in one season. By the end of the season, he looked like he had played 2 seasons. So, Wemby is going to be very impressive this year. So, he was second in Defensive Player of the Year voting as a rookie. A lot of people thought he deserved it. I mean, he got some first place votes. That's how good he is. It's going to be really interesting. So I have them at 9. 8, I have the Pelicans. I could see the Pelicans being really bad. Especially because they're probably going to move off Brandon Ingram at some point. But I can't really justify putting him any lower because you look at the roster, there's a lot of talent here. And Zion's like quietly been kind of good for them. It's just nobody cares. So 7 is the Suns. I would love to put this team lower, but I do think they'll find a way to scrape out to being 7th place in the West. So 6 is the Kings. People forget the Kings won like a decent amount of games last year. It's just the West was so hard, like it always is. So adding DeMar, I think, was a good move. I honestly think this Kings team is good, and I think they're going to have to not play in the play-in this year, and that will be good for them. I actually think it's a pretty good team. So 5 is the Grizzlies. Grizzlies didn't even make the play-in last year. Why do I think this? If there's ever a year for them to get everything fixed up and get back to where we thought they were going to be a couple years back when we thought, wow, this team's going to be competing for the finals in the future. This is the year. 2023 was weird. 2024 was weird with all the Jaws stuff. This is the year I think they could get back on track. And I think Zach Edey is the most important rookie in the NBA because if he's good for them, they can be a really, really tough team. And if he's not good, then I think that really hurts them. If he's good for them, he very likely can win Rookie of the Year. He's right now the favorite for Rookie of the Year if you look at betting odds. I think he's one and Reed Shepherd's two. I'm going to say right now, I'm going to take Reed Shepherd, but I honestly think Edey might win it. If he's good for the Grizzlies, he'll be a starter on a playoff level team that's not in the plan. He'll win Rookie of the Year. So, if he's good for them, serious. I'm gonna take Reed just because I kept saying that I thought he should have been the number one pick, so I kind of want to stand by him. But and I do think he's the safer choice because Edey's like a boomer bust. Like he's either gonna be like, wow, this guy's Rookie of the Year, or it's gonna be like, oh yeah, he's really bad. He can't play defense. So. I just don't feel like putting my stick in the mud on this because I'm not that confident in it. I just think if he's good for the Grizzlies, he will win Rookie of the Year. It just makes sense. It's not like I'm high on Zach Edey. It's just more so logic where it's like it's not a very good class. All it's going to take is being good on a good team. He's going to be good on a good team. Boom. If I was high on Edey and I liked him, I think I would make it my official pick, but I'm not going to. So 4 is the Mavericks, about where they were last year. I don't really think they got significantly better. I don't think Klay Thompson is the Klay Thompson of old, nor do I think he can even be what they want him to be. I don't think he's going to do much there. So 3 is the Nuggets. They were the 2 seed last year. Have them at the 3 seed this year. Still, I mean, they're still elite. I actually really like the Russell Westbrook pickup for them. I think that'll be really interesting, make them really fun. Still a championship contender. 2 is the Timberwolves. Like I said, I like this Karl-Anthony Towns moves for both teams. I think it slightly benefits the Knicks a little more, but I also see why the Timberwolves did it from a money perspective. I also don't really think they lost out on much. So I think it's going to work out for them. I think they're going to be good. I do think that getting, oh my gosh, the guy from Kentucky, he's not Reed Shepherd. He's the other guy. Oh my gosh. Oh my. What is his name? Rob Dillingham. I think it was an interesting choice. I'm kind of surprised that's where they went. A lot of people were like, oh, I love that for them. I'm like, really? But maybe it's going to work out and be money. I just thought it was a bit of an interesting choice. So, number 1 seed in the West, I have the Thunder. This team could win 60-plus games. This is a good team. And I have something on my shoulder. I mean, what do you want me to say? I love the Hartenstein pickup. They got Jalen Williams, who's good. Chet Holmgren, who's good. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is good. They have other good players I'm not even thinking of. It's a really good team. It's a really good team. And there's a reason that most people are like, wow, Thunder versus Spurs is going to be the Western Conference Finals for a long time once Wemby gets a team around him. And it's like, yeah, it probably will. So if I'm the Thunder, I'm trying to race to win some titles before I have to go up against Wemby. Okay, let's get into the awards section. MVP. As I said before, really, I should take Luka because let's look around the field, right? Jokic isn't going to get his 4th MVP in 5 years. It's not going to happen. He only got it last year because they realized they messed up and should have given it to him the year before. They're not going to give it to him again. They're just not. Because the NBA is very narrative focused with the MVP. And so it's not going to go to him, right? Jason Tatum has the narrative, right? Where it's, oh, well, you know, Jaylen Brown won Finals MVP and Conference Finals MVP. That pissed me off when I came into this season. It was just incredible. Okay, that's like the narrative, right? But they would have to win more games they did last year, and they had an insanely good record last year, 64 wins. So they have to have a better record. What, they're going to win 70 games? And he's going to put up like 30 plus? because that's what he'd have to do. Like, he'd have to be consistently the best player on the team, and then have to have a better record than last year. And that's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, so I'm not going to pick that. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is like the one I think a lot of people are high on, and it's like Shai's really good. Shai's got great numbers, but I just don't think he can win it when there's nights where Chet's going to be more important. There's going to be games where Chet's better. And if it's really going to be a more physical game and they're going to call less fouls, that's going to be to his detriment. It's going to hurt Shai. Shai's really good, don't get me wrong, but there are nights where he is not the best player on his team. And I did think that probably hurts his MVP case, just the way they vote on it. Let's go over to my guy, Giannis. Love Giannis. Giannis is going to have to carry this team. They're not having a good enough record. They're not going to have a good enough record. And so it's not going to be a top 3 team record-wise. So it's like Luka is the one that makes sense. You look at all the best players, Luka makes the most sense. The only other one that makes sense is the one I'm going to go with because I just don't feel like taking Luka. Because it's felt like you should take Luka every year since 2020. Like 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, it was like Luka was the pick. 2021, it was Luka, and then we saw Jokic win. It's like, oh, maybe Jokic goes back-to-back, but it might be Embiid or Luka next year. Then Jokic won again 22. Then 2023, it was like, oh, maybe it'll be Luka or Embiid this year, and then it was Embiid. And we were like, oh, shit, we should have given it to Jokic. 2024, it was like, okay, probably be Jokic, he deserves it. But Luka might win it. Jokic wins it. This year, it's like, okay, Luka's going to get it. At some point, I'm like, maybe it's just not going to happen. So I'm taking Anthony Edwards to win MVP. I also think the league and the media would love that. They love him. And for good reason. He's great. So, Rookie of the Year, I'm taking Reed Shepherd, but it very well could be Zach Edey. I just like Reed Shepherd a lot. Sixth Man of the Year, I'm going to take Dante DiVincenzo. Coming off the bench for the Timberwolves. Maybe he'll start, but I was thinking he's going to come off the bench. I guess I should probably check the Timberwolves roster real quick just to clarify, but I figured he was going to. Let's go to the depth chart. Yeah, he's off bench because Jaden McDaniels will start. Mike Conley, Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, and then Dante and Naz Reid off the bench. Yeah, that's Rob Dillingham's son too. There you go. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I'm going to take Dante DiVincenzo. I could see it. Defense Player of the Year, taking Victor Wembanyama. First of many. He's probably going to win a lot, so he deserves it. We've never seen a guy this young be this good at defense. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Most improved player, I'm going to take Paulo Banchero. This is the thing. He shouldn't win it. It doesn't make sense. He won Rookie of the Year. We know he's going to be really good. He is not the type of person that should win Most Improved Player. This should not happen. But that's the way they vote on it now. So I'm just being realistic with the way they vote on it now. It'll probably be him. So, given my other predictions that there'll be a 3 seed, it'll end up being Paulo. Doesn't make sense, but that's the way they vote on it. So, Coach of the Year, I was between Jamal Mosley or Taylor Jenkins or Tom Thibodeau. I went with Taylor Jenkins just because the Grizzlies were like the 13th best team in the West last year. Like, they were very much near the bottom. So it would be a pretty big turnaround, so that would benefit him when it comes to Coach of the Year. Let's get into the playoffs. Let's do the West play-in first. So we get the 10 Lakers versus the 9 Spurs. Spurs win. They go on to face the loser of Suns Pelicans. And so I have the Pelicans winning that. Wait a minute, I have to think about this. I actually might have wrote these down wrong. I'm looking at this. Yeah, okay, sorry. I have the Suns beating the Pelicans. My mistake. I just wrote this wrong. Let me fix this. I had the Suns beating the Pels. I think while I was writing it, I forgot how the play-in worked because it is tricky. So let me re-explain this for you guys. So the 10 Lakers versus the 9 Spurs. Winner gets to face the loser of the game between the 7-8. I have the Spurs beating the Lakers. The NBA would love this. If the play-in game, the game that comes down to who's going to get in the playoffs, Wemby or LeBron, oh my gosh, they'd eat that up. So, but I think Wemby gets the win. Wemby in a one-game series is scary because you know he can just lock in. So, yeah, I'm taking Wemby. And the Spurs, they're going to face the loser of Pelicans versus Suns. I have the Suns beating the Pelicans in a game. Spurs versus Pels, why not? Let's put the Spurs in the playoffs. So I got the Spurs beating the Pelicans. All right. Let's move into the East play-in, in which I have the number 10 Pistons versus the 9 Hornets. As much as I love my Pistons, I cannot be real. I mean, I can't lie to myself. Hornets beat them here. They face the loser of Sixers Heat. I have the Sixers winning that game. And then Hornets versus Heat, I have the Heat winning that game. So that gives us a playoffs in the West of the Thunder versus the Spurs, the Timberwolves versus the Suns, the Nuggets versus the Kings, and the Mavericks versus the Grizzlies. So let's do the first seed first. So we get the number 1 Thunder versus the number 8 Spurs. I got the Thunder in 5. Would be a very fun series. Wemby versus Chet, but the Thunder are a significantly better team. Number 2 T-Wolves versus number 7 Suns. Timberwolves in 5. I honestly thought about going 4 here. Actually, screw it. We'll just take Timberwolves in 4. This series might not even happen. I mean, I'm getting real deep in the predictions now. Number 3 Nuggets versus number 6 Kings. I have the Nuggets in 5 in that series. Fun run for the Kings, but once again, get eliminated in the first round. Sorry, guys. 4 Mavs versus 5 Grizzlies. I take the Grizzlies in 7 here, upsetting the Mavs that went to the finals last year. I don't know. I could just see it. Second round, number 1 Thunder versus number 5 Grizzlies. The Grizzlies run ends here. Thunder in 6. Number 2 Timberwolves versus number 3 Nuggets. This is a really interesting matchup. Potentially the 2 best teams in the West, but I'm going to take the Nuggets in 7. That gives us a Western Conference Finals of the number 1 Thunder versus the number 3 Nuggets. Really deliberated here. I really did. I'm going to take the Thunder in 7. But I'm going to be honest, if that series actually happened, it would be hard for me to pick against Jokic, to be honest. Let's go to the East playoffs, because the Thunder have now won the Western Conference. They're going to the finals. Eastern Conference. Number 1 Celtics versus number 8 Heat. Celtics in 6. Heat make it interesting, but no. Number 2 Knicks versus number 7 Sixers. I understand that this is literally what happened last year, but it's just the way the predictions worked out. I'm going to take the Knicks in 5 here, though. They take care of the Sixers. Number 3 Magic versus number 6 Pacers. I'm going to take the Magic in 6. This series might be on NBA TV, but I would enjoy it. Number 4 Bucks versus number 5 Cavs. I have the Bucks in 6. Like I said, the only way I can see the Cavs being a finals contender is if Mobley takes that next step. Second round, number 1 Celtics versus number 4 Bucks. I got the Celtics in 6 here. Number 2 Knicks versus number 3 Magic. Magic runs in here. Knicks in 6. Eastern Conference Finals. We got the Celtics versus the Knicks. The 1 seed versus the 2 seed. I'm taking the Knicks in 7. I honestly think the Knicks might be the best team in basketball this year. That brings us to the 2025 NBA Finals, which is the New York Knicks versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. The orange and blue finals. The only 2 teams in the NBA are the orange and blue facing off. Part of the reason I had to take the Thunder out of the West, I wanted to take the Nuggets out of the West. I wanted to take the Timberwolves out of the West. I really did. But the Timberwolves out of the West would just be too perfect. There's no way we get the Karl-Anthony Towns finals. It's just too perfect, especially the year after it happened. I would love it. You would have the New York Knicks, which would be a massive deal if they went to the finals, like the biggest deal in the world. And then you'd have Anthony Edwards, who the NBA would love to see win the finals. Either way, it's a win-win for the NBA, and it's a perfect look at how competitive this league is. Look how we've had all these different teams in the finals. Look how fun this is. And they'd be able to market Anthony Edwards versus the New York Knicks. It'd be so much fun. I just think it's too perfect to happen. Then we got Knicks Nuggets. The problem is, I think the Nuggets would beat the Knicks in a 7-game series. I think Jokic would just kind of bitch them. So I don't want to do that. So that's why I took the Thunder out of the West, is because I think the Knicks are going to win the finals. That's honestly my pick. And I felt like the Timberwolves is too perfect. The Nuggets, I would talk myself into the Nuggets beating them. So I took the Thunder, which are a very popular pick, to be in the finals. Some people have them winning it. And I took the Knicks to win the finals because I honestly think they're the best team in the league. So I'm taking the Knicks over the Thunder in 6. Finals MVP, probably Brunson, but maybe Josh Hart could snag it. I could see it. He steps up in big moments. So that's right. The New York Knicks winning their first NBA championship since 1973. 52 years after their first. Jalen Brunson would never have to buy a dinner or drink in New York for the rest of his life. That every single one of them would be like permanently immortal. Like, the old Knicks, people still talk about Willis Reed because of and Walt Frazier. Like, people my age still know who Walt Frazier is because of the old Knicks. Now, I know who Jerry Lucas is. A lot of people don't. A lot of like kids my age don't. But like kids my age know who Walt Frazier is because of the Knicks winning the finals in 1970 and 1973. That's how big of a deal it is when the Knicks win the finals. I think it'd be so much fun. This is why the Yankees don't deserve to win the World Series. The guards need to, because New York's going to get the Knicks a championship. And I think everyone in New York, not everyone, but I'm sure if you polled New Yorkers and you said Yankees World Series or Knicks finals, I guarantee you the majority would say Knicks finals. It's been so long, and they've only got 2 in franchise history, and they love the Knicks. I mean, New York loves basketball, and it would be pretty awesome. So I would love to see it. I think it'd be really fun. That's mostly why I took it, because I think it's a really fun team, and I think this team benefits more than any other team if the game becomes more physical, because they're a very physical team, and they would greatly benefit from all that. Now, I know you're like, well, Brunson draws a lot of fouls. Yeah, he does. He does. But he's tough. He'll adapt. I'm literally 100% sure he'll adapt. So I'm like not really concerned. So, yeah. The Knicks. I have the Knicks as the 2025 NBA champions. That's a crazy statement, but I could see it happening. I think this is the first time I've ever felt like I could take them to win the finals, and I think it'd be really fun if they did. So I did it because I would love to see it. And sometimes you just got to do what you love, and I would love for this to happen. So, all right, that's it from me. Let's check up. What are the Christmas Day games, right? That's always NBA Christmas Day games. Let's see what those are. It's the Christmas Day. Just curious. See what they're pushing. All right. Opening night. What's the opening night? Celtics versus Knicks opening night. Okay. And then Timberwolves at Lakers. Okay. Pretty good. NBA Christmas Day. Oh, well, now I know what game I'm watching. There we go. Noon. Spurs Knicks. There we go. Wemby versus the Knicks. That'll be great. Timberwolves Mavericks. That'll be pretty fun. Okay. Sixers Celtics. I'm not that intrigued. Nuggets Suns at 10:30. Not intrigued. Lakers Warriors at 8. They're still giving them primetime slots. Oh my gosh. Okay, we really should have done Knicks Spurs at 8. You guys kind of suck, but whatever. The Knicks having a Christmas Day game is awesome though. Jalen Brunson and the Nova Knicks versus Victor Wembanyama. Oh, yeah, that's money. So money. Love it. Oh, who's ESPN's top 50 player rankings? They have Wemby at 11? Okay. Okay, wow. That'll be done. That'll be different by the end of the year. All right, that's it for me. Knicks 2025 NBA champions. You can book it. It'll be awesome. Blue and orange finals. A lot of people are going to be like, that's a lot of blue and orange. And it will be. It will be a lot of blue and orange. What's up in New York and blue and orange? Syracuse, Knicks. I think that's it. Islanders, Mets. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, it's kind of a lot. All right. Well, that is it for me. Thanks for checking out the NBA one. Make sure you join me for my NFL show that I'll do. The next episode will probably be NFL focused, probably be out around Tuesday evening. And then enjoy the NBA season.